Well, hello and welcome back for another video. Yes, this video I'm building some planter boxes, as you might have guessed with the thumbnail. And I'm here at the lumber yard picking up a lift of 1x6x6 seconds. So they got this really cheap, about 125 bucks. Normally this lift would be about $500 if it was premium lumber, but it's not. So in hindsight, more than 50% of it was good stuff. So it was a great deal. But either case, I'm about 3 hours into it here, as you see, cutting and finding the right boards and sorting through them. Some are good, some aren't. Some are going to be good for something else, some aren't good for this. But either case, I got lots of lumber here to work with, and my goal is to build 5 of these planter boxes, 4 to keep and 1 to sell. As usual, this isn't a detailed how to do thing. If you're a craftsman, you could watch what I'm doing and go ahead and recreate it. But either case, just to make it a little easier, here's a cut list. And these are all the pieces you need to build one of these. And then you'll see a little later how I assemble it. Pretty much you can do this whole thing with a circular saw. You don't have to have a chop saw like I have here. You could do this easily with a circular saw or even a hand saw. These are just 1x6s. A little later on, you're going to see me use a table saw so I could rip some of these things down. And I did rip a bunch of these down to make them thinner for railing. So that'd be the one thing that you might want to use a table saw for. But you could, if you were skilled enough, do that with a skill saw as well. Okay, so now that's all cut, I basically stuck it here into sections. Each one of these is one unit, so there's 4 of them here on the floor. I've already actually built one, and that one is my prototype just to get the feel for it all. And all these parts here, the long ones, the short ones, they're all going to go into the sides. Basically, you build a bottom cradle, then you build a top cradle, and then your legs mount on the sides of that. And then you'll have some pickets that go into the center, and here's the pickets that go onto the bottom to become the floor of the box. And these ones here go on the sides to become the sides of the box. If you've watched my channel for any time at all, you know that I'm not bunching to plans. So I drew this little thing up. Hopefully it'll help you, maybe it won't. But either case, you can watch my high-speed assembly here and see how I do it. It's really not that hard if you just take a minute and look at it. I went ahead and I had to drill and countersink all these holes because this wood is only 1x and it's really green. So if you just kind of force your way through, you definitely will split it. I'm using these deck screws here. Nothing magical about them. They're just cheap ones. They're 1.25 inches. And that also helps by the countersinking, that they actually get a little deeper, get a little more purchase in the next log, but they don't make it all the way through the other board. I think I said log, didn't I? Well, they're boards, not logs anymore anyways. So what I'm building here is the base, and as you see, it's all coming together as a square. And the bottom, I have an extra support there. These pieces on the side here, I'm screwing 1x3 to the 1x6, in a sense making myself a 2x3 at the base there, holding it all together. And now I'm moving on to the top ring, is what I like to call it. Basically, it's just a square of wood, and you'll see what's going to happen here. But basically, my pickets will come in and feed all these together. And the way I do that is I'll take these 2 squares, and then I'll attach them together with the legs. Now, just to make this a little more rigid while I do all this, basically what I'm doing is I'm taking a couple of the pickets that go on the bottom. I'm sorry, I guess they're slats, not pickets. They go on the bottom, and I'm screwing them into place, and then I'm going to put some pickets on top of them and screw them into place, and basically creating myself 4 legs that I can move and attach my ring to. Okay, so it's important to note here that these slats and pickets are the only ones that are going to get screwed into place. Everything else is going to get nailed and glued. This is the structural part of the unit here. So by screwing these together, I'm creating a nice stable box. And then these legs really give it the strength. And then later on, you'll see as I add the pickets, I've already got a nice solid box. It's important to note here, I did use 2-inch screws for the center section around the bottom band there. It's going through the 1x outer layer and then through the inner 1x3. That's basically the main support that's holding up all the slats that you'll see here in a minute. So far as spacing here, it's just eyeballed. Basically, it's the same spacing as my finger is wide. No magic here. Don't make it too tight. You got to let the water out somewhere. I'm going to put fabric down, so I'm not really concerned about the dirt. Okay, so you might notice that I did not glue those. And that's because they're going to be pinched in by the ones above it. And the dirt is going to be pushing down on those. So those are never going to really be moved. Also, later on, I'm going to come and cover those up with fabric as well. Okay, so all these slats here are just glued and pin nailed in place. Reason being, when the dirt starts to push on them, they're not going to go anywhere. So it's just to hold them steady. They're not doing anything structurally. They're going to be basically a dam for the dirt. You notice there at the end, there's a little gap. Yeah, I had to make 4 extra little pieces, which I'll show you here in a little bit, just to take that gap up. All right, so here I'm cutting those custom slats that I was talking about. Now notice here 2 of them were square and 2 of them aren't. This is also something you could do with your circular saw or a handsaw. And then I just fit them in place and glued and pinned them where they needed to go. It came together beautifully. All right, so as far as this top rail goes, now this is something that structurally does give the longer walls a little more strength. Will keep it from bowing when the weight of the dirt gets in there. But you know, these aren't lifting handles, so don't use them for that. They're basically there to give that main wall strength and just to make it a little more pleasant on your elbows as you're doing your gardening. Also, they stop the end grain from all those slats being exposed to the weather. You know, if that was just pointing up every time it rained, all the end grain would get soaked and these boards would go bad quick. So this top rail gives that a little bit of a roof, so to speak, and allows that water to shed off and not be just stuck there in the end grain. Not saying that they're not going to get a little wet, but it'll keep it a long time. And she's all together. Only thing left to do now is do a little sanding and throw some boiled linseed oil on it. Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of sanding on this. Right now I got some 60 grit on here. And really I'm kind of shaping that rail, making it very user-friendly, taking all the edges off and just getting it rounded up nice. And then I take some 80 grit and hit the whole thing one time. And that's it. And that's what you got right there. That's the finished sanding. You could be a little crazier, do a little bit more sanding, but this is going out in the garden. It's not going in my living room. It's supposed to look a little rough anyway. So a little good dusting off here and a nice little blow job, get it all cleaned, and some boiled linseed oil and lots of back working, bending over. I'll get her done. And voila, she's finished. Looks pretty good with a little oil on there. Really dressed it up a lot. And this oil will protect it somewhat from the weather. You know, it's still pine. It's not going to last forever. But I really like how that knot came out. It looks cool. But either way, it'll hold up nicely. All right, stapled in a piece of felt, and now I'm off to the nursery to get some dirt. What's your experience at the nursery? Well, I'm here to get some stuff to mix in my dirt to make my dirt better, so I have really good dirt. Can you help me find some stuff to mix in my dirt? Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. 4 yards of dirt later, a wheelbarrow, a ramp, and a bucket. I got all these things filled up with dirt, mixed it with perlite and everything like it's supposed to be. And they came out looking nice. And then I got this other idea of putting up this little rack here for the beans. Let me show you how we did that real quick. It was real simple. Okay, so this material was left over from a deck that Charles and I just did for a friend. And we basically had to cut out this little notch here because this stuff here basically goes inside of it and became the railing. So I have all this left over, and I decided, well, hey, I know how to make something that the vines can climb on. So basically I just took those, screwed it to the box, shoved it in there, put another piece of 1x on top, make a little shelf, little top piece, and voila, there you go. Instant bean rack. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Take care. God bless.